Hey guys, Big Jonas here coming to you on July 4th. Thought I would do a quick Bitcoin video update because we have definitely some very interesting stuff going on right now. We have retagged um, this area of support that we hit back in May. And the reason I call it an area of support is because we had a very big bounce when we were able to get that area touched, 56K area, and we bounced about 26% or $14,000 in Bitcoin price action. Today, we have retested that area. And for now, it's holding. And actually, I do expect it to find some support here. There were buyers that came in here. They wanted to add Bitcoin. We can kind of zoom back previously in price history. Remember, we were here in 2021 in April, and then again in November of 2021 in April before we had our bear market there. Now, if we were going to use this area as support again, we can basically draw our fib from our previous highs we had here in June at 71 and kind of map out a plan as to where Bitcoin could bounce to and potentially hit resistances, back to 60K, 32%, 62K would basically be a bear flag touch, 50% up to 64, and of course the golden pocket ratio at 66K. These are all definitely possible bounce areas that would basically set up that kind of a lower high situation. Here's our high, here's our low, and then that bounce can basically come up anywhere here and still keep that downtrend in line. And let's face it, we are in a downtrend. We have hit 74, 72, 71, 71, 63, and now we're basically below 60K. Now, taking into effect, there's the Mt. Gox payouts that are beginning to start, it looks like. We got Germany putting Bitcoin on the exchanges to sell. We have a lot of, downward pressure, it seems, from, people that definitely are institutions, let's say, that have a lot of Bitcoin they want to basically clearly sell. So can the market absorb all that basically selling pressure as we see here? So I do expect this area to hold for now, and I actually do expect some sort of a retracement bounce into these key areas here. Now, when we put on some of our indicators and oscillators, we can basically see where those bounces could basically hit resistance and why we actually are finding support here. Breaching that lower Bollinger Band, breaching that lower Bollinger Band, breaching that lower Bollinger Band, and today breaching that lower Bollinger Band on the daily, does institute some sort of a bounce support. Maybe we'll hit the middle BB and rejected. Maybe we'll hit the upper band and rejected, upper band and rejected. Look how it hit the middle BB here on July 1st to the penny and got rejected. And now we have both of our bands on the daily chart in a downward angle here. Okay, so another bounce basically up to the MA20 here would basically be about a 62.5 area, but would also continue that lower downtrend situation. When we zoom out to our weekly chart, still using the Bollinger Bands here, we can see we're getting a lot tighter. Remember how wide we were here, getting a lot tighter, and we still have yet to breach that lower band of support. But we can see that the crunch here is setting up for the next big and major move. Now, we haven't touched the lower Bollinger Band on the weekly since August of 2023. And we can see here that was a nice touch, and that was basically a great entry area. Touched it, held support, and then Bitcoin ripped into the ETF announcement. Same thing down here. Broke, touched the lower Bollinger Band, hell of an entry down here. Okay, this break was different because it was in the collapse. The FTX was here, but this was the Bitcoin collapse here. Once it broke, went sideways. So as you can see, it's very rare to see, at least in recent history, the lower Bollinger Band breach and staying below. We tend to get a bounce there. So once we are again back at our weekly lower Bollinger Band support, and it's notable how tight we are as well. The tightness of the bands do produce larger movements after that is touched here. So is this time going to be different? We found support multiple times on the lower BB, which formed an advancement. We would always hit the upper Bollinger Band, ride it, break through it a little too fast here. Now we're down here. So no real concerns from a technical, perspective here on the deviation of the move, because we've yet to really break the lower Bollinger and the weekly chart, and currently that's right at around 62 and change, and we're just a little bit above it currently. Zooming out to our monthly chart, we can see, let me go back to auto here. We're still incredibly wide here, as wide as we basically have ever been. So we really even haven't seen any contraction on the monthly chart. Bollinger Band, as you can see, when we break and pierce that upper Bollinger Band, we eventually get back in it. The retest here, remember this was a higher high, but the retest was a clean rejection of that Bollinger, was not able to breach it this time. Back in 21. Breached it this time, and then this last attempt to get above it here, that was the nut top. So that rejection was very fierce, and we can see that's coming down. Now note the middle Bollinger Band is around 40K. And we can see once that rejection happened in 21, the next stop for the monthly Bitcoin chart was in that 40 middle Bollinger Band area, roughly around that 40K area. Once we're able to find support in the lower Bollinger Band and break through the middle Bollinger Band here in October, boom, there was the sky's the limit here. So we have a roadmap here using the Bollinger Bands on a highest time frame of the monthly chart that quantifies as well. If we break above it, we come back in it, and if we reject on it, we get back to the middle Bollinger Band. Now this is monthly. This could take many months to get back into that area there, but because we're so wide here, there's so much room for this to kind of consolidate up or down, while we eventually were able to get the bands very tight here. And you can see how big we are here compared to what I thought was a huge spread in the Bollinger Bands back in 2018, which is like a little, this is a great white shark and this is Megalodon, in terms of how wide we are here on the Bollingers. Let's go back to the daily chart and take a look at some other indicators here. I love using my EMA 12 and EMA 26. And as you can see here, we've basically been kind of tossing around here. Now, what I would like to note is back here in February of 24, when we were able to find that bull cross there, this took us all the way up to our all-time highs. We did have our bear cross here in April, reacquired our bull cross here in May, and this was a very big warning sign here back in mid-June when we crossed bearish once again and kept on rejecting now. This was support. Now it's resistance. A little fake out here, but we were unable to get above the 26 and resistance once again. So this has been a clue as to what to look for. Weekly chart similarities, okay? We've been in this bullish spread all the way since October of 23. We never touched our EMA 26 until last week. Last week was the first pierce, able to come up, nice looking candle there with a bottom wick. We traced all that and then some this week, and now we are currently below our EMA 26 on the weekly chart. Something we have not done since over a year ago, or almost a year ago, September of 23 here. So this is important. It'll be very important to see what our weekly close is in 3 days and 9 hours. If we're able to find the 26 as support, that would put us right about 59K or so. This is important here because we're still in that bull cross. You can still see here, we still have, this is a bullish setup here on our EMAs on our weekly, and until these cross, until our blue goes below our yellow, okay, this is still a bullish setup here. As you can see, this was a very tight trap here, but once it happened again for the second time in January of 22, bear market ensued. Once we were able to recross bullish, and the most important thing back here in September of 23 was to hold that bullish momentum, keep the bull cross intact. Boom, sky is the limit here. So the ways to go, but something I'm definitely going to continue to monitor and see if we actually are able to cross bearishly this time. And then our monthly chart here, we're still so high above our EMA 12. Remember how high we got here in 21, used it as support, got even higher in November of 21, broke it, used our 26 as support for a couple months here, had a nice bounce. And once that 26 was breached and closed below, that was the capitulation move of the bear market of 21 into 22. Reaccumulating that support, and now we're back up here. First touch of that would be around 52K, and I actually do expect that to be touched at some time. Whether the blue line comes up and touches the price action, or the price action goes down and touches the blue line, that is definitely something to be eyed out and watched out over the coming months. Remember, highest time frame monthly chart. I do want to bring up our Ichimoku cloud here. Lots of support below in the 40s here. Haven't gotten this touched in a very long while here. I love using the weekly support because we can see it's been such a roadmap. Once we were able to reject the cloud here, get back into it, breach it, use it as support resistance, and then once we're able to get back above it here, boom, sky's the limit. The supports still are around the 42s, and as we go out into November, December, January of next year, we can see that support can rise. So there's lower supports here in the low to mid 50s that have never really been touched in a very long time. And you can see the Kumo breach here. This was support here, this was support here, and now our price action is below it. Next support here at 50K. And I don't really like using the cloud in lower time frames. I like using it on the weekly or really higher. And last thing I want to talk about is our triple MA forecast. Let's go to our daily chart here. We can see MA 200. This is important. First touch since October of 23. Seems to be a recurring theme here. Everything happened on October 23 and bounced up. You can see MA 100 support was used here back in January of beginning of this year. Again, support, and now we got the resistance. And we now have, you can see here, we're starting to get that bearish crossover of our MA 50, the brown line, and 100, the blue line here. This was the perfect fan out, 50 over 100 over 200, 50 over 100 over 200. Now we still have the 50 over the 100 over the 200, but we can see we're getting real close here for that confirmation of the bearish cross of the 100 and 200. Again, first touch of the MA 200 on the daily. I do expect this to offer some meaningful support. This was our history here, support, ran around here in the spaghetti squiggles here until we were able to breach out here. Going to our weekly chart, you can still see how much significantly higher we are than our MA 50. Our brown line here is right around, let's call it 50K of our weekly chart here. And it's funny, we still, even all this bullish market, have not put our MAs on the weekly chart in the proper order. We still have the 200 over the 100, although the 100 is crawling up. It looks like this will eventually cross in the coming weeks to get that proper sequence, 50 over 1 over 2. However, haven't touched the 50 in a while. We can see in our bull market here of 21, the MA 50 was huge support and a huge bounce that brought us to those highest highs back in November of 21 until it became resistance, support, resistance. That was a big red flag there when we were unable to hold that as support. So still a long ways to go on the downside to even test that MA 50. And moving to our monthly chart, you can see not even close. It's touching MA 50 at 40K here, and you can see how significantly higher we were from the 50 in the bull market there. So there's a lot of history basically of being above the 50 in our bull markets, and below the 50s have been great buying opportunities. Let me go to the longer term. There we go. Bitstamp gives me a little bit more history here. You can see the MA 50 on the monthly chart. Amazing support, right? And every time it breached it was a hell of a buy. Breach here of $5,000, breach here of $21,000, breach here of $26,000 were all amazing buy entries on the 50. As you can see, that's still at 40K, almost 20 grand below our current price action here. So it feels bearish, it seems bearish, but this can still just be flagging. I mean, from a longer term perspective here, this can still just be a monthly bull flag that just needs to play out and consolidate before it can definitely move higher. And it can definitely move higher until these areas that I've pointed out today could either be tested or being breached. And lastly here, as you can see, current price action, we're still, using our previous all-time high zones, let's call it zones on our monthly chart, as an overall price support. We're right here. We can see this was an area of resistance. This was an area of resistance. And now basically we're still trying to test it and use it as an area of support. So although there's a ton of blood in the market here, and we can basically, last thing I want to look at was our totals. Total crypto market cap. It's a very similar chart to Bitcoin. The total 3, which is our altcoins. This is kind of an area I'm interested in. Monthly chart, MA50 coinciding here with this area of resistance that turned into support. A back test of that would put us between, let's say, 530 and 480 billion on our altcoins, and that would basically be a complete flush out, finding that support and then riding that off into the sunset here in some sort of a Elliott wave 4 to a 5, and that's kind of the best case scenario for our altcoins, coming down a little bit lower, finding that support there and busting higher. We can see our stablecoin Tether dominance continues to rise. Monthly chart back over the MA50. This is a flight to safety, and that safety flight continues to move higher here. And last thing I want to look at, I keep saying that, but I guess one more thing here would be the Bitcoin dominance. This fall, this pullback we're having this week, dominance really hasn't moved much. So this is more of a system-wide crypto pullback. We can see across the board, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's altcoins, they're all pulling back. They're all devaluing the valuations right now. And that's why we're not really seeing a huge spike here in Bitcoin dominance. However, I still expect Bitcoin dominance to continue to rise as we basically head into the end of the summer here. MA 100 on the monthly, right around 57%, something to keep an eye on. And the very last thing, and I promise, is our CME gaps. I'm a big fan of CME gaps. I follow them a lot because they've always been filled. And currently there are no gaps above the current price action. Only the current open gaps are below the current price action. And the nearest open gap is right around 40K. There's a bunch in the 30s, and then we won't need to talk about these for now. But I don't see any open gaps above current price. All these gaps are below. Doesn't mean Bitcoin can't rip higher into new all-time highs, but I do feel that at some point these gaps will get filled. Until next time, it's Big Jonas. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.